Hi, it's little Lisa. I'm back. Thought I'd do this quick little video because I got more vanilla beans in and I wanted to try my hand at making vanilla paste. There are a ton of recipes out there for how to make vanilla paste, and the majority of them have the similar ingredients, but a lot of them have either corn syrup or glucose, and I really wanted to avoid that. And I found a recipe that said you could substitute lemon juice for the corn syrup. So I thought I would try this recipe. It comes from carascouturecakes.com. That's where the recipe comes from, so you can look it up. But I'm going to start by, I'm going to use my blend tech. She says to use a food processor or a spice grinder, but I think that this should work. We're going to try it. Anyway, you start out with, I'm going to put half the sugar in the blender. So that's 150 grams. So I'm going to weigh that out here. There we go. So 150 grams of sugar, and then it says 16 vanilla beans. These are Madagascar bourbon cured vanilla beans. I have them sitting in some rum because I weighed them out and then I had a migraine and I didn't want to deal with them. So I had a little bit of rum left, so I just poured it over to keep them healthy. So I'm going to count out 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we'll see how this works. I personally like to do things by weight versus the number, but I'm going to go with what the recipe says. It says to cut off the ends and to save them to put in vanilla sugar. So since mine are wet from being in the rum, I'm going to put them in a little bowl to let them dry out. And the reason you cut the ends off is because they're kind of hard and they'll be harder to grind up. So you don't have bits in your, too many hard bits. And they'll be excellent in the vanilla sugar. So then you cut them into half-inch pieces. And put them in with the sugar. Whoops. So vanilla paste you can use just like vanilla extract. And you pretty much use it like 1-to-1 for vanilla extract. So I thought I would try it because there are times when I've used vanilla paste in a recipe. I use it a lot when I make cheesecake because I want the little flecks. So instead of just taking the caviar out of the bean, I use vanilla paste because it gives you the flavor and the specks of the caviar. Now with vanilla beans, most of the flavor, I'd say, I think it's around 95% or so of the flavor is in the pod. That's what you're actually extracting when you're making vanilla extract. It's not so much the seeds inside that have the flavor, it's the pod. So that's one reason why vanilla paste is so handy in the kitchen, because you're getting the vanilla flavor from the pod and the speckles from the beans. So some of the recipes that I looked at have you mix alcohol like rum or vodka with the sugar and the vanilla, whizzed up vanilla beans, and they have you put the corn syrup and like some kind of thickener like xanthan gum. I didn't want to do all those ingredients. I just kind of wanted to try and simplify it. So I liked this recipe. And I've also seen recipes where you can just mix honey and vanilla beans, like just like this. Instead of sugar, it'd be honey. And pulverize it really well, and then you can strain it in case there's some bigger bits. And you can heat it up if you want to like infuse the flavor faster, or you can just leave it to sit. And you'd have basically like vanilla honey that you could use like a paste. I may end up trying that. I haven't decided if I want to do it yet. I've read some pros and cons. I mean, it's basically vanilla honey. I just don't know how long it'll last because I wouldn't want to introduce too much liquid with the vanilla beans, or you'll get your honey to ferment. So I was a little worried about that. So I may end up trying a little bit, not make a huge batch. just enough that I could use it quickly if I needed to. In the past, when I've bought vanilla paste, it's fairly expensive, and it's usually got thickeners and corn syrup and all that kind of stuff in it. So I thought it'd be fun to make some. So once I blend these up, I'm going to mix the rest of the ingredients and heat them up, and then add this and heat it, and then strain it. Once I strain it, I should have probably some solids left from the vanilla bean. And I think I'm going to put that in a jar with this leftover rum and let it extract. I'll make an extract. It won't be super strong, but it'll work. And it shouldn't take as long as regular extract because it's pulverized already. So there's more surface area. These are really fresh vanilla beans, so they're a little bit harder to cut through. They're nice and pliable. All right, there we go. It smells so good. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to whiz this. Might be loud for a moment. If I can get the lid on. There it goes. There we go. I think I'm going to push it down. It's a little damp since my vanilla beans were wet. It's pretty pulverized. I think I'll give it one more little whiz. All right, I'm going to leave that there. Now, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take my saucepan and I'm going to put the water, which it says 250 grams of water. Can you hand me my pitcher of water? It was on the table. Oh, no, it's right here. Oh, somebody dumped it out. Oh, somebody dumped it out. Hold on, I got to grab water. I had it ready. All right, we need 250 grams of water, another 150 grams of Okay, so we're working on making our simple syrup here with the sugar, the water, and the lemon juice. There's a couple of floaties from the vanilla beans that were on my spatula. So we're just going to bring this up to a boil, melt all the sugar. I can still feel the sugar at the bottom of the pan, and I don't want it to scorch, so that's why I'm kind of stirring the bottom of the pan. The nice thing about vanilla paste is I can make it and I can use it right away versus extract that takes, 12, 18 months to make. So this will be nice in the interim. We just wait for sugar to boil. It's starting to simmer. So we'll let it boil, and then it's got to boil for 2 minutes. And then once that happens, we add this into there and cook it for another 2 minutes. I can see why it probably would have been a better idea to have taken the beans out of the rum earlier and let them kind of dry out on the counter before I cut them up and put them in here because they're stuck. Which if the beans were dry and the sugar was dry, I wouldn't have this issue. I don't want to splash myself with hot sugar water, so I'm going to be careful here. And it says it should be shelf stable for like a year, but because I used the lemon juice, but I didn't use, the reason that you use the corn syrup or glycerin is those are invert sugars and they will stop the recrystallization of the sugar. So once you boiled this sugar and boiled this, then you pour it in the jar. If it was just sugar, it could recrystallize. So to avoid that, you add in the invert sugar, which is like the glucose or the corn syrup, but I didn't really want to use those, so I'm going to see how the lemon juice works. If it happens to recrystallize, it's easy enough to just set my bottle in some warm water and it'll melt the crystals, so I'm not too worried about it. Here. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to carefully take it over here. I'm going to get my dish ready. Here, I'll just bring my dish over here where you can see. I don't need this. Okay, so we're going to pour it into this fine mesh strainer and strain out as much of this vanilla bean bits as possible. Now this is very hot sugar syrup, so when you do this, be very careful. Smells good. It's definitely thickening as it cools. I can see as I scrape it. See how thick that is? Made like a softball stage almost. I may put some, I might make some chai in this pan. With that vanilla in there, that'd probably be really good. I'm just going to strain this by pushing it as much as I can because I want to get all the liquid out of here and just be left with fairly compacted bits. And I'm not going to waste these vanilla bits. The $10 an ounce for vanilla beans, this was probably close to an ounce. I didn't weigh how much the 16 beans, but I had 4 ounces in that container with the rum, so it was probably about a quarter of them. It was probably a good ounce of beans, so I will put this right back in the rum and let it extract. It's 3/4 of a cup of rum that was in there because it was all I had left. So we'll weigh the dregs here and see what I'm left with. This is real stringy and thick as it's coming through here, so that's good. And there is obviously going to be sugar left in these dregs, but that won't hurt the extract any. In fact, you find a lot of times when you buy commercial extract, even the high quality ones, have alcohol, water, usually because they use the higher proof alcohol, so they dilute it with distilled water to get it to the right proof. And they sometimes add sugar. Because it helps with the flavor. It's too thick. It's nice and stringy and thick. It's going to be This is actually going to turn out really good. I'm surprised. I mean, I should know, but always wondered. All right, so now I'm just going to let this cool and pour it in a mason jar, and I am going to put this into my rum for an extract, and that's all there is to it. Now I have some lovely vanilla paste to use. Bye.